What advice would you have to a graduate student interested in using primarily qualitative methods to ask questions? I'm keeping it vague because we have students with such diverse interests, but they're kind of looking forward and thinking about questions in research design and later analysis and writing. And what advice would you have for them?
Yeah. So I oftentimes hear my graduate students say, well, I really want to write a dissertation. I really want to write write up a case study, or I really want to do or carry out a dissertation that draws on survey research, or I really want to do this. And I say, that's fine. It's wonderful to have our interests, but I always advise them to take a step back, and before they pick which methodological tools they're going to pull out of that toolbox, to ask themselves what the problem is that they're interested in investigating and what that phenomenon is. And I ask them to then design a question about that problem, and that question should then drive the methods. And we oftentimes do it the other way around. We find different methods, and we find, because of our own educational experiences and our own professional training and our own academic learning, some resonate with us more than others. That's fine to have your preferences, but I strongly urge them to slow down before they pick the method, even the qualitative or quantitative tradition, and think about the phenomena that are most exciting and intellectually stimulating to them. Ask a question about those phenomena, and then let that answer drive the tools that they select.
And now moving on, they've conducted research. It's a great research design and set of questions, and they have in front of them what, particularly for qualitative research, is often a very large body of massed data.
Yes.
And they're moving towards analysis and writing. What are some pieces of advice you found useful for grad students at those phases?
Well, I oftentimes hear graduate students saying they don't know when to stop, right? When do I stop coding? I could keep going forever. And I've definitely been that researcher coding my qualitative data, wondering when I'm ready to stop. I think it's important to bring your data in and have conversations with multiple audiences about it, other graduate students, with your advisor, other intellectual mentors, and have conversations about what it is that you're analyzing to decide, okay, to help sort of pinpoint areas where you may sort of have certain sort of intellectual blind spots. And the moment you open up this conversation, which can be a very sort of solitary intellectual exercise, analyzing your qualitative data, the moment you open it up to multiple perspectives, you now have multiple eyes on the same data and patterns, and I think new findings can emerge through being in conversation with others and sort of opening up what is oftentimes a very privatized process to multiple people. At the same time, like you said, that qualitative data is necessarily sort of rich and deep, and it can include a fairly expansive data set, and that can oftentimes become cumbersome the first time around when we are essentially practicing our different qualitative data analysis techniques. And this is one of the reasons that I started using the technique of qualitative comparative analysis. I had a data set that I was working with my research team from the study that I talked about earlier with the intermediary organization that was engaging in different sort of instructional supports for its schools. And one of the forms of data that we collected were instructional task analyses, where our students walked in with a predefined protocol or observation protocol for capturing instructional tasks. And they were able to write up qualitatively what each complete instructional task looked like. But in the end, we had probably 60-some tasks to look across and to code, and we could code that using conventional qualitative techniques, but sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around what a pattern of 58 instances of a particular event looks like. Comparative analysis allows us to sort of reduce that data and and to systematically minimize these patterns in ways that we can identify multiple combinations of conditions that are associated with the outcome of interest. So we utilized it in our study originally, and now I'm using it in other studies as well, as a tool to help us reduce what can be a very sort of large, overwhelming amount of data, and to look at it systematically.